Setting up.
What's that?
You're halfway for live.
Right on. We're probably live now. So this is the part where we never really truly know if we're live or not. So Facebook, we're going to assume that we are live right now. So welcome to Clubwell TV. My name is Michael Hellickson. As you can see, I'm in a car. So I am in hot Atlanta and doing an Explode seminar over here. So I just got done on stage, came out here, jumped on for Clubwell TV. I'm going to have to leave a little bit early because I got to go back for some questions and answers. But my amazing, stupendous, wonderful, incredible co-hosts, Cherie Benjamin, I should say Coach Cherie Benjamin. She's earned that title. Coach Cherie Benjamin and Coach Brian Curtis will be continuing on with the Richardsons. And oh my gosh, let me tell you something. These guys are killing it. I'm so excited about today's episode. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of take a step back. I'm going to let Brian and Cherie run the show. But before they do, I would love for Brian and Cindi, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about the Richardsons and what you guys are doing over there.
We are in Cleveland, Tennessee. So we are just north of Atlanta and south of Knoxville. In a small town, we are about 100,000 people. I have been in real estate in this area since 1999, and Brian joined me in
2011.
Yeah. So really, we started building the team a little bit before that, before Brian joined us. But so we've been doing real estate in this area for almost 20 years.
That is awesome. And so tell me, what are we going to be talking about today? What is it that you're doing that is really different? Because I know you guys are in a small market, right?
Yes, we are in a very small market.
How many people are in your market?
We are within the city limits. We are about 30,000, maybe a little more than that now, maybe closer to 33,000, including the county. We're about 100,000 people. So we are in a very small market. So, and we are doing anywhere from 200 to 250 transactions here.
So that's insane.
Yeah, AKA that means that they are dominating their small market. That's what that is.
That's crazy. I mean, what's that work out to in terms of number of people, or I should say percentage of market share in that market?
We are probably about 10%.
Wow. That is fantastic. Okay. Yeah. And for those that don't know, we normally tell people that in terms of market share, 10% is very high, right? Like 8 to 12% is as high as most people ever get in a particular market. Once in a while, we'll see somebody get to 15% market share in a market. And then you really got to start expanding out into other markets around you from there. Yeah, so that's phenomenal. 10% market share. I mean, I want you all that are watching this, I want you to think about your market. I want you to ask yourself, what would it be like if I had a 10% market share in my market? That's insane. So, all right, well, good stuff. Well, so talk to us. How did you get there? How did you do that?
Getting there was just a lot of hard work. I mean, there is no magic thing. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. In the beginning, we did a whole lot of listings and a whole lot of things that nobody else wanted to do. And then now it's more of a matter of staying there. And that's where the team comes in. So we spend a lot of our time being out in the public and trying to get with people. And the team is the one that's actually out doing selling homes, listing homes. I still list. Probably half of the listings I go on, and Brian still handles some of the buyers, but for the most part, the buyers agents handle it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still do a little bit of listings with just some of our contractors too.
Okay. So talk to us about that. So first of all, let's back up. I want to hear more about how you're getting those listings. And Brian and Cherie, I want to hear, your questions as well. But I want to hear not only about how you're getting those listings, but I want to hear in the beginning, as you started your team there in this little town, start back when it was just you guys. Because I know we have a lot of viewers that are team leaders, but we also have a lot of viewers that are just solo agents. So start by telling us, as a solo agent, what were some of the pitfalls you encountered and how did you overcome them?
In the beginning, it was me by myself, of course, and then Jody joined me, and she's actually been with me for about 15 years now. And Jody was my assistant, and we did a whole lot of door knocking, a whole lot of just stuff. Jody,
wait. Did you say you and your assistant did door knocking?
Oh, absolutely. And I am a high D, so getting in front of people is not natural for me. Jody is a high I, so it was not uncommon for us to go to lunch and Jody throw me out at a FISBO. I mean, she would just pull up, hand me a package, and tell me to go. So she pushes me. And then that was very common in the beginning. Again, we did a whole lot of things that agents didn't want to do. And I know it's hard now thinking back that we actually did door knocking and phone calls and the things that people don't want to do. But this is the result of what that did in the beginning. So now we don't have to go out and door knock. We still phone call, but the difference is now when we call, they know who we are. So that kind of gives us a little bit of a leg up rather than just randomly calling people. But we did a lot of listings that we're probably ashamed of now. Again, we did what the big people didn't want to do. It was a whole lot easier breaking in on the listing that other people didn't want to do. I mean, I had listings in the beginning that I had one that had so much water in the basement, I was scared to put a lockbox on it. So we just, we just had to meet you there so to make sure that nobody got hurt. But that's just how we kind of got into it. And one of the really big developers in town called me to see that particular listing because it came with land. And when my broker saw him sitting in my office, he about died because he couldn't believe that I managed to get this guy in my office. So it was just kind of like a blind luck. But yeah, it was a lot of hard work in the beginning.
So a couple of things I just heard you say there. One of the very first things you did was hire an assistant. And so how long had you been in real estate before you did that? And how much money were you making when you did that?
I hired her about 2 years in. And at the time I was maybe making $50,000, $60,000 a year. So to bring on an assistant was extremely scary. Yeah. So, but I mean, it freed me up that I actually made more money once Jody was involved. And I know that's a hard, and I got lucky because, people say that your first assistant, that's going to be your executive assistant. And I don't think that's necessarily always true. I think I got extremely lucky and we grew up together. So we kind of grew in the business together, but most people can't afford that caliber of a person from the beginning. I got lucky because she was young and we kind of developed together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you said it was scary when you did it. So did you have the surplus income that you could just say, oh, I'm just going to hire an assistant? Or was it like, oh my gosh, I know I need this help, but I don't know how I'm going to afford it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yes, that's exactly the way it was. Absolutely not. I mean, it was absolutely scary to think that I was now responsible for her income and that if I had to let her go, it was going to affect their family. So it absolutely was scary.
Yeah. I think all of us. And Brian and Sheree, I'm curious, with your teams, did you feel the same way when you hired your first assistant?
Oh my gosh, I was so scared. I was so scared because it's you are really responsible for someone else's paycheck. And it's not like a buyer's agent where they're still making those phone calls and they hold a little bit of that, there too, that responsibility there too. But no, I have to write a per hour paycheck to you every 2 weeks. So I was completely scared out of my mind to do that. It's a big deal. It really was a big deal for me. However, it drove me even further. So it was almost like that big of a boost that I needed because I got someone else that that I'm basically responsible for, like what Cindi said. I'm responsible for her household also. So I need to go out and make the best use of this time. I got to go get some more deals. I can't let, some people have an assistant, they'll bring them on and then they give the assistant all the stuff they don't want to do, but then they don't turn around and go get more business with that. They sit back and they think, oh, well, this real estate thing, I've got this in the bag. Now I have someone else doing all that stuff I don't want to do. I can just sit and wait for my phone to call. My phone to ring or, and that's it. And I'm a referral only agent. And then my assistant can handle it and my phone just rings. It doesn't work like that. You should actually start doing more with that time to generate more business because guess what? You got another mouth to feed. It's like birthing a kid.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I've never heard it put quite that way, Sheree. That's awesome. Brian, how about you? What was it like for you? Was it straightforward? Was it easy, or was it a little bit scary?
It's a lot of different factors. So my first assistant was actually Lisa. So she was unpaid. That was the most expensive thing I ever did. So, you know, and it's just understanding that sometimes working with your spouse, in an assistant role can be challenging. And I know that you do it, Michael, but I found it better for my marriage to hire somebody else. But yeah, it was scary because, you know, Lisa and I are both pretty high D, so there can be a little bit of this going on. But, you know, at first it was, and my very first assistant lasted 3 weeks with me, and I would never use that person's name, but ultimately I told them, this is something that we have to do no matter what. This has to be done. Back in the REO days, and REO, there's zero tolerance in REO for all the people out there who want to get into REO. Make sure that you understand that Christmas, a task is due. That means that task is due on Christmas, and the system isn't smart enough to figure out it's Christmas. But anyway, so we missed a task, and I said, but I told you, well, I got busy or something, and so I was actually at a conference and I fired her right there. And, you know, it just had to happen. But it took me another 6 months to hire my next assistant. But to Sheree's point, I think the most important thing when you're going to hire an assistant is, so let's say that you're signing up for a $30,000 a year salary. I'm just making that number up, is you have to go out and cover that. And the beauty of it is, if you're a person who's doing the activities that you're supposed to be doing, you're following a system, you're making phone calls, you have a systematic lead generation in place, you've just freed up so much of your time. You know, realistically, a $30,000 a year employee is making $14 an hour, I think is about what that comes out to. There are so many things in real estate that you can do that make significantly more than $14 an hour. And here's the best part about it. For the majority of agents who I know that are good, are low C's and low C's. So, you know, for all you disc profile people out there, but ultimately they can do all the stuff that you're cruddy at. And really that's what it comes down to. So they're 10 times more efficient at what you're bad at. So, you know, that's the beauty of it. I heard Chris Smith say one time, hire people to replace the parts of your business that you're bad at or don't like to do. And most of them that you don't like to do, you don't like to do because you're bad at them. So, you know, it was a scary hire because I feel that responsibility of, at the end of the day, if my team doesn't eat, that's my responsibility. So they eat first. And at the end of the day, I get what's left over. So it's a responsibility. And, you know, if you take it that way, that it's good. And let me, since we're talking about assistants, let me bring this up. If you tell someone when to do something, where to be, how to do it, they're an employee. And yes. I think a lot of people out there go, well, my assistant has a license. Did you tell him to come to work today? Yeah. Then you better play him as a W-2 unless you'd like to deal with the IRS. And they're not a fun group of people to deal with. So anyway.
No, and that's a big mistake that a lot of people do make. They think that they can just get away with it with having them as 1099. And I think that that's something that you need to be very careful of. Meetings, all of that. You need to be very careful of that. And listen, it's not that hard. It's a big, scary world, and I understand, and no one wants to do the W-2 thing. Just do it. Just do it so your business can prosper. Get over it and just do it.
So I'm curious, Brian and Cindy, are you using a payroll company like an ADP or a Paychex or anything like that?
We use QuickBooks and Intuit. And we have Jody handles our payroll for us.
Okay, so so you're not using a third-party company to ensure that you're, no. You know, that things are getting done a certain way or anything like that.
No, huh?
Okay, all right. So go ahead.
Now I was going to say I can give you a pointer. So we are my biggest teams in Atlanta, and you guys aren't too far from it. But SunTrust is who I used, and it's fairly cheap. They handle everything. All of the stuff that's supposed to go to the IRS gets done. It's wham bam. They give me a reminder. I send it in. Done. $50. So
yeah. Okay. So I want to remind everybody that's just joining us. I know we've got a lot of people that are just joining in right now, and welcome, by the way. Thank you guys all for being here. That Brian and Cindi are running a 10% market share in their little part of the world, and that's saying something, you guys. That is a pretty big deal. And so, I want to now get in. We've talked about, in the beginning, it was hard for you guys. You were nervous about hiring this assistant, but you did it. And so then you transition from, now we've got the one assistant, to how did you start becoming the local expert and really growing a team? Tell us about that.
A lot of business, a lot of work. That's what, when we look back at what Jody and I did years ago, it was hard to believe that two people could do that amount of business, but it's completely doable. But it is a lot of referral business. Since we are in a small town, we can prospect on a much smaller scale. So we've yet to have a big client event. And this will be our first year actually doing that. But we prospect by joining associations and being involved with local charities. We do a lot, and we've talked about this. We do a lot with some of the communities when they're selling, the charities are selling tables to events, their big annual fundraisers and things. We like to sponsor those. If we don't sponsor them, we'll buy a table, and we will take whoever we feel we're getting business from, or who we can get business from, we'll take and ask them to come sit at our table with us. And that's a way that we can just prospect with people.
Okay, so how many of those are you doing here? Because I know we've talked to a lot of people that are doing charity events, and it's a big deal, right? Getting involved in those charities, supporting the charities, and then get more specific with us. Like, do you have a truck that you're parking out front or anything like that? Talk to us about that.
Well, what we do is we do about 2 to 3 a year.
Okay.
Various types of clubs like Junior Auxiliary, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, those types of things. And we're able to get our sponsorship and get our logos out there really big. And those are the type of things that we do to get our advertisement, and everybody knows that we're a major sponsor of the events.
And like the JA event, that was really neat. Everybody, as the couples come in, it was a black tie event. And as everybody came in, they stood in this one place and they took pictures so that everybody could post on Facebook their pictures. And our logo was actually on the backdrop behind them. So everybody's posting on Facebook, and then there's our logo right behind them. Yeah. So that one, we didn't expect that with the picture thing, but it turned out really, really great. What we did expect was to be on all of the advertising and the brochures and everything, but the pictures, which was just kind of a bonus, that was really neat.
Yeah, that was nice.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to say, and of course, throughout the events, they mention, who's the main sponsors and stuff like that, so everybody in the audience knows who we are.
So when you guys you were doing all the dirt that no one else wants to do. Okay, because we've got people who are in smaller markets. Not everyone's in Atlanta or LA. Some people are in Bentonville, Arkansas, and sorry, Brian. But so I think there is a little bit of a difference. We like to say that will it work in my market? Yes, and yes, and yes. When you're in a smaller market, you have to be out there more. You have to make your face. You have to get in front of more people. The charity events, the client events. It's great that you guys are doing that. Step up to doing like community events, all of those things. So when you first got started, how did you pick which charity to be a part of? There's so many, and sometimes we find things where it's like, ooh, if I go with this charity, I might make these people upset. Or if I go with this charity, I may make these people upset. How did you determine which ones? Because you're in such a small town where it's like the Cheers, everybody knows your name, so how did you decide that?
It actually was kind of just, again, blind luck. It was my son, it was his school. So I'm already there, I'm already doing things. And it was the friends that the friends of his parents, where they just began getting me involved in different things. So it all started with our son's school. So, and then I got so heavily involved in other schools that I actually at one point was spending more time with other children at other schools than I actually was with my son.
Yeah.
So at one point I had to really scale back, and poor Brian was about the only dad at school that was volunteering to come in and run coffee. I'm over at the school down the road, reading to the kids. So a lot of it started with just our son was at that age where it was easy to get involved just by being around the other parents of children that same age. So and school and your children are an excellent way to prospect. I mean, even Jody now prospects at the ballparks because you are there several times a week. You are sitting with all of these parents around you. That is an excellent time to start reaching out to people and letting them know what you do, and just not really in your face selling, but more talking about the market and about what's going on, so that when they do have questions, you're automatically the expert that they think of.
So tell me this. So I'm a Shire agent. I'm not, but I'm just going to pretend it. So I'm a Shire agent. I meet Cindi. Our children are at the ballpark together. How do you open that up? How do agents who aren't so outgoing, what's like the opening line, new place, new people? How do I get that conversation started to even start talking about the market?
Yeah. And I am actually one that doesn't talk a lot when I'm actually with people. Again, Brian, he's our high eye. Brian will talk to absolutely anybody. I have to drag him out of stores and out of places. But and honestly, for me, it was some of the groups, the women that I hung around, they were high eyes and they talked a lot and they would open up the conversation. So even if I didn't open it up, all of a sudden they would start asking me about the market and things. And before you know it, there was a lot of people talking. So if you have a friend that talks a lot, that absolutely helps. And if not, you find that mom that talks a lot, because I guarantee you she's very close to you and she is ready to talk. And she inevitably, they will ask how the market is. So, and that's just an opener, and then everybody around you will begin to chime in.
So I got another question for you. So let's fast forward just a smidget from, we're now into our first charity. It's you, it's Brian, it's Jody. And what made you bring on someone else? Because you originally said, when you look back as to what just the two of you were able to do, when was it that you decided, okay, we need to start growing a team? Like, what forced your hand?
When we could no longer handle it. It's our team actually, we developed it very organically. It's every time we've needed, when we hit our ceiling, and you will know when you hit your ceiling, when you absolutely cannot do any more, then it is time to hire another team member. And multiple times we have hit ceilings. I feel like we have hit a ceiling very recently. And that's when it's time to shake it up and do something different. And a lot of times that's adding somebody that is stronger than you are. And every time we've added somebody, it has made a big difference.
That's a key thing. You said stronger than you are. So you're looking for people who, even in your agents, you're looking for people who offer something different from what you offer. Yeah, I think that's wicked smart. I think that's so super smart. So you're at 10, that first person came on, you hit a ceiling, you brought someone else on. Is it a team of 10 and everyone's a buyer's agents? Are there those that are helping with listings too?
No, they're Jody and I both do listings, Brian and 3 buyer's agents, and then everybody else is an admin. So we have 4 admin, 4 on the buyer side, and 2 listings.
Michael, that sounds a little bit like how your team was back when you were doing it. You were heavy on the admin side and smaller on the agent side. Isn't that correct?
I was. At our peak, we had a total of 16. Well, at one point, we actually had 20, but we usually were right around 16 agents. But we'd have we'd have like 30, 32 administrative team members. Now, a lot of that was a function because I did a lot of REO. But even on the retail side, only half of our business was REO and half was retail. So, we still had a good chunk of team members administrative team members on the retail side, because here's the reality. You got to deliver great customer service, not just to the clients, but also to the agents in your market. And if you're not delivering that level of customer service, then guess what? You're going backwards. People are, instead of having a good experience and saying, wow, I want to use them again, or I want to refer them again, now they're saying, wow, these guys freaking sucked. And it works exactly the opposite for you.
Yeah, see, I tell my agents every deal is, and this is the way that I think of it, is that when we say that we're going to be world-class, that's not just with our clients, that's with the agents on the other side too. Because the way that I see it, that agent on the other side is a potential team member for me.
That's right.
So I want for you to have a great experience. I also want you're in a small market. I'm in a larger market, but majority of the agents that we come across, they do a lot of deals. We got a couple of part-timers that are thrown in there that we see every now and then. However, Cindi, if we've done business before and it wasn't I can't wait for these 30 days to be over with, so I never have to deal with Cherie Benjamin again. It was a great positive experience, even if there was a little bit of back and forth, so what? That's real estate. Then the next time, if I'm in a multiple offer scenario, let's call a spade, people. Sometimes we're looking at it and these two deals look exactly the same. And we've had that. These two deals look exactly the same. And agent A was a nightmare to deal with. And agent B was lovely the last time I've dealt with them. Which way do you think we're going to go?
Right.
By the way, I hate to do this to you guys. I've got to run inside to this live event right now. I've got to wrap up some questions and answers here. But before I do, I know you guys are going to continue on. We're going to, Brian and Cherie are going to ask more questions and get more stuff out of Cindi and Brian on how you guys can grow in a small market. But before that happens, I want to remind all of you to check out our sponsor, the people that make this Club Wealth TV possible, which is WiseHire. And we use the heck out of WiseHire. We love these guys. It's a great recruiting tool. Their website is www.wisehire.com/Club Wealth. And also, if you're not already in our Facebook group, go join the Club Wealth Facebook group. You guys need to be in there. Lots of great information. It's awesome. And it's free. So check out facebook.com/groups/Club Wealth and join that group. So that being said, appreciate you guys being on. Brian and Cherie, keep asking those questions. And for those of you that have questions of Brian, Cherie, or Brian and Cindi, please type them in your comments box right now, because guess what? They will get to your questions live right here. So thank you guys. I will see you in a little bit. Brian and Cherie, take it away.
Bye. Have fun.
Bye.
Have fun, Michael. All right. Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit on you, and I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about the magazine that you work with, because I know that that's something that you've and I learned this just because we were in a mastermind together. So, tell us a little bit about that. I'm sure there you got a copy of it back for you to show us. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm just going to turn that over because I think it's a neat and really neat thing. I'd like you to talk a little bit about the price, the return. How is that helping your business? There, I'll just let you go.
We were not doing a good job on staying in front of past customers. So we needed something to go out other than emails and birthday cards. We needed something to go out to stay in front of them. And then we come across the magazine, and this one is Homes by Design, and it is an excellent quality. We get to completely design the front cover, and then we also design the back cover, and we have spaces on the inside, and it's nice quality too. So it doesn't feel like a newsletter. It feels like a true magazine.
Absolutely.
And we actually can tell when they hit the homes, because somebody will text me or call me and say, hey, that's a great article. They really think that we are writing this magazine, and we're not. But they'll call and they'll say, I loved that recipe, or that's a great new style that's coming out. I mean, we always get some kind of comment, and it's an excellent way for us to stay in front of past clients, because I get sick. I mean, if I could drive by past clients and I see someone else's sign in the yard, that is a sickening feeling. And I mean, I'm one that beats myself up over it. It was my fault because I didn't stay in contact with them. So that was a way that we can get back in front of them again. And Brian, I have to tell you what we're paying for it. I have no idea.
Yes, Brian, what are you paying for it?
Well, it's about $3 an issue.
That includes
Includes
postage.
postage, shipping, and like I say, we order several hundred, and it's a bi-monthly publication, so it's 6 times a year. And like I say, Cindy sort of hit on all the highlights. We get control of the front cover, back cover, inside, front and back, and it's just filled with awesome articles. And like she said, it just puts us out there, and we actually have people that actually think that it's our magazine.
Absolutely.
We also send it out to the subdivision, which we do a lot of business in the subdivision that we personally live in, but we also send it out to everybody in our subdivision so that we stay in front of them, because
Right.
nobody wants to drive home and see your neighbor with another sign in their yard.
Absolutely. And there is nothing more frustrating. And I've done that. I've actually called a client and said, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, "Hey, Brian, what's going on?" Like we were still buddy. And I'm like, "You list, oh, and they tell you a story, and it wasn't even a bad story." So, there are clients, and we all have them, that we kind of hope do list their house with somebody else. But for the most part, those ones don't bother you. You kind of drive by that house and kind of laugh and go, "That agent's, they're going to regret it."
You're high-fiving everybody in the office.
But, for the most part, I would say, 98% of the time, it's a good relationship. And, statistically speaking, I haven't looked at the statistics lately, but I think it's so important to stay in front of your past clients, because it's like 83% of all people would use the same realtor, but 8% do. Those aren't exact numbers, but, it's like 10 to 1. So that really says if you are in this long term, and, I think one of the things that people make mistakes of when they're in the business for 1, 2, 3 years is they can't think about that client who they sold a house to a year ago ever being a client again. It's so far away. But the reality, it isn't, and, just like I tell people with lead generation, a lead comes in, they're like, "Oh gosh, that lead's 6 months out." I'm like, great. We're still going to be in business 6 months from now, right? So, these things are how you make your life easier. And that's really what you're doing. You're making your life easier 6 months from now, right? A year from now, 18 months from now. So, realistically, have you been able to calculate any kind of return on that? Any kind of people saying, "Oh, wow, you reminded me of because I got your magazine." Are you actually getting business from it directly, do you think?
No, but very seldom do we. It's not happening as much where we see our sign, someone else's sign in one of our old yards. So that makes us feel better. And we just recently started putting people, when we're not the buyer's agent on one of our listings, we've started putting those people in our list too. So I'll be curious to see how that turns out. But we are starting to add other people, because when the market shifts, we know that a lot of, that we'll see a lot of the newer agents fall out of it.
Yeah.
So we are trying to make sure that we keep in contact with their customers.
So, in case anyone didn't hear that, we call that an orphan buyer program. The reality is, again, there's a reason that only 8% of the people are using the same agent that they did the last time they did the transaction, is because A, that agent got out of the business because they did 5 deals and decided this was hard. Or B, more likely, honestly, is they just did a crappy job of staying in touch. So when it comes down to it, they literally don't remember the name of the agent who sold them the house 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So yeah, by sending them that information, I think that that's fabulous. And that orphan buyer program, if you put that in place, you look at a year from now, I bet you'll have a deal from it. And then 2 and 3 years from now, you have 5, 6, 10 deals that come from it. It's basically, they don't know it, but by working with us, they're volunteering to be marketed to. So I love that. And I want just one final question on that. If you look at the number of hours, you're sending that out 6 times a year. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. How many hours are you putting in putting that thing together?
Less than an hour. We just generate a new list and send it to them. I mean, it's nothing.
And so that was the whole thing, because most people see something like that and go, "Oh my God, there's no way possible that I could do something like this." The reality is every single one of us can do it. And, if you have 100 past clients, we're only talking about $300 every other month, $150 a month.
Right.
obviously you can scale that up and it gets more expensive, but again, the return's going to be the same. So I really applaud you on that, because that's something, like you said, there's nothing worse than driving next door. My next door neighbor, and I'd only lived there for a few months, so I don't feel that bad, listed their house with somebody else. So just moved into the neighborhood. But, you know, those are things that happen. You're like, oh my gosh, I really screwed up. I should list my next door neighbor's house. That's a good rule. So, but cool. Jury questions?
Well, I do want to talk about how many, because we're in such a dominating for listings. How many listings do you guys currently have right now?
81.
81. Okay.
Mhm.
And how many did you say that there were of you doing listings?
Listings, there's only 2 of us that actually go out and do listings.
Okay.
And then we have our office staff.
So there's 2 people. I want people to hear this. There's 2 people going out and getting listings, and you have 81. I thought it was 80. I'm sorry, I missed the one. So there's 81 listings. Okay. Where are these listings coming from? Where are they coming from?
A lot of our listings are past clients. And a lot of them are just people that come to our open houses that need to sell a house before they can buy. So that's probably our main 2 sources, is people that need to sell before they can buy, and past clients. We work for about 7 builders now, but the builders have not been that strong this year. So with the markets up, it's harder for the builders to turn out the inventory because the subcontractors are not getting out there as quick. So we're very careful not to get our inventory too builder heavy. And also, as the market starts to slow down, the builders will be the first ones that start to cut back. And if your inventory is too builder heavy, then again, that will affect you. We also try to be very careful in keeping a price range of listings. Because we don't want to get known as the agents that do nothing but big listings, but we also don't want to get known as the agents that do nothing but, you know, the smaller homes. So we pay a lot of attention, and we may say, hey, we need some more listings in this price range, and we'll start going back through our past clients, people in that price range or would be in that price range now, reaching out, seeing who is ready to sell. So we are lucky enough to be in an area that one of our zip codes, they sell on average of every 2 years. And then one of our other zip codes on average of every 3 years. So just knowing that, we can begin reaching back out to those people.
And that's
You're diversifying it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we have stayed very conscious of over time, is watching what the inventory levels are and the price ranges. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we've done really well ever since I joined Cindi 8 years ago. I mean, I think that's just one of the things that's been one of the highlights of what we do well.
But even though we strive to have a very big difference, I mean, right now, I think we've got things starting as low as 50,000 up to 1.5 million, which is huge for our area, by the way.
Yeah.
With that, we still give the same, we do a lot of the same marketing. So even the smaller ones are still getting the professional photography. They're still getting the 3D walkthroughs. We're still doing things on those lower and medium priced homes that we do on the upper priced homes. And because of that, a lot of those people that are selling that price range home, that's easy for us to sell value. So if I'm going up against another agent, I'm saying, hey, but I'm going to give you the virtual tour, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Whereas a lot of agents will say, okay, I'm only going to do the virtual tour on homes over 300,000. Well, not us. I'll do it on your mobile home. I don't care, because at this point we have bought the equipment. So it's just a matter of someone's time here at the office to go do it. And if you don't own the equipment, I highly recommend doing it, because I think we paid $4,500 for the actual camera, and the person that takes care of our marketing goes out and takes care of the virtual tour, and he meets the photographer there. So
we get it all done in one shot, and he's really become very expert with using that Matterport camera, and it just makes all the difference with marketing.
I want to applaud you for something, and this is something a lot of people miss, is you're not marketing a house, you're marketing yourself. And I think that sometimes people miss that. Like, oh, I got a $50,000 listing. I'll show up with my iPhone and take pictures, click, 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 click. And that's good enough. And the truth of the matter is, in my market, I could probably take a picture of the front of the house with my iPhone on a $50,000 listing and get it sold in a day, because it's so quick. And, you know, there's so much demand for that. There'll be investors, there'll be first time home, but there'll be so many people who want that house. But it's a huge, huge, huge mistake, because now if I do that, I can't go and say every single time I do professional photos, every single time I do this, every single time I do this, because that's what it's all about. You know, yes, maybe you saved, I don't know, let's say you saved $100, you know, not having to pay that person to go out and take that 3D virtual tour. But again, every time when you can say that I'm professional, no matter what, it's above and beyond. Because yeah, maybe you only made $1,500 selling that house, but what you did is tell everybody that we are professional 100% of the time. And I applaud you for that, because a lot of agents go, well, this listing isn't worth it. This isn't worth it. And the other thing that I think is an amazing thing, and maybe it's amazing because I did it too, and that's why I like it. But I'll take any listing. You know, I was going through Facebook the other day and I saw this listing that I posted. There was a big metal sign in the front yard, and basically the city had condemned it. And it was my listing, and it was pretty exciting. But, you know, those are the types of listings. $19,000 I sold that house for. But, you know, it's okay, because I got other stuff from that. We got a buyer. We double-sided that $19,000 house, by the way. So you know, those are the things that we can do, and no one's. But you know, it ended up being REO, and you know, we got business from it. But understand that doing the right thing all the time pays off, and that's what I hear that you're doing, the right thing over and over and over again. How do we know what pictures we're going to take on this house? I don't know, because we take the same pictures at every single house every single time. There's no question, your system's in place, and I really applaud you for doing that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a lot of the marketing too is just doing the basics. In the market lately, it's been so easy that you could get away with not doing things. But just things as simple as, I mean, it drives me crazy if I drive by and you see a sign that's crooked. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
Or directionals were so easy, especially with it being summer in the city. You know, when they're out mowing, they will mow right over directionals and things. So all of us keep additional directionals in our vehicles so that we can jump out and put them out. It's just simple things like that, you know, even though that home may be under contract, you're still pulling buyers off of that. So we do not put sold signs on houses. I know it helps with the neighborhood and things, but right now it's about getting the buyers. So we really try to do the simple things that should be done from the beginning. But you've introduced us to some other things where we're taking some of the old things. I mean, I put take one boxes out this week. And when you first said that, that was crazy, but we actually put out take one boxes, and we have a phone number designated just to the flyers so that we can see what that's bringing in. And that's been pretty amazing. So you're taking an old school thing like take one boxes and putting a little modern twist on it by adding the designated phone number so that you can track your efforts. And I had never used different phone numbers for things and tracking. And that has been really, really eye-opening for me, so that you can see exactly where your phone calls are coming from.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people miss that because they get excited when their phone rings. And I'll be honest, I get excited when my phone rings. That's great. Incoming phone calls are the best thing on the buy side the best side in real estate. There's nothing better than getting up in the morning and cranking through some phone calls. And then better than that is, hey, look, incoming phone calls. People want to talk to me. I don't have to lead generate. They're actually calling me. You're attracting business. But here's the thing that people miss, and I love that you pointed this out, is how do I do more? In other words, so if I'm running a Craigslist ad and my Craigslist ad is very successful, if every single phone call that comes to the Craigslist also comes the same sign phone number, it comes from, you got that same phone number ringing for 4 different places. How do you know what's working, what's not working? How do you know where to put more time, energy, and effort into? I was talking to another coaching client the other day, and they were talking about how a lot of people look at things like Zillow and they just assume that they're making money at it, but they don't sit down and calculate and say, oh, look, my Zillow spend is $5,000 a month. I'm making lots of money off that. When when they backtrack it, they realize that they haven't closed this little deal in 3 months. And so they just spent $15,000, and guess what? It's time to catch up. So I love that you're working on things that are actually trackable, and then you can duplicate it. Because one of the things we can do is just spend more attention on the things that are successful for us. And I think it's great. And here's the other thing that I'll say: technology is wonderful. And what I mean by that is I use Facebook and I use all that marketing stuff. But here's the reality: people are going backwards. And what I mean by that is email doesn't work nearly as well as it did 5 years ago, because everyone gets 8,000 emails a day. Mail, something showing up in my mailbox, a letter. Wow, who knew that was exciting? A magazine showing up in my mailbox. Those are the types of things that, even though technology is great, it allows us to be more personal. And I think a flyer is, look, I've got this flyer in my hand, and I think that's great. I'm glad that you're implementing. I'll be interested to see how those things are working for you and how they're doing that. So you mentioned this, and I'll kind of give in the last 10 minutes, and everyone's talking about this, so we might as well talk about it too. As the market shifts, and by the way, when I say shift, I'm not talking about shifting back to 2008. I don't think that's going to happen anytime in the next 12 to 18 months. I'm not saying it's never going to happen. But what kind of things are you guys seeing, for starters, as the market slows down a little bit, and what kind of things are you doing to prepare for it?
We know it's coming. I mean, but it's not a bad thing. I think for agents that are actually out here working, it's a very healthy thing. So, I mean, it's not at all scary for us. It's something we actually have probably been looking forward to, so that it will take out people that are just half into real estate. But we are implementing the offers instantly, which is a program we did that's a knockoff of the one that Nick Shivers did from, which is the instant offers. And we're probably a little early on it because of the market is still healthy, but we're still marketing it everywhere now. And that's one thing. You can't drive down the street right now without seeing our face plastered somewhere with that offers instantly. And
okay.
We haven't bought a house yet, but we have had lots of phone calls and lots of listing appointments from it.
Yeah.
So it's just something.
Where are you advertising that? So you said you can't see your face. So tell me a little bit more about where you're advertising that, and obviously you're getting some success off of it.
Yeah, we have billboards all over town, and I did like Nick. I did the little cartoon head instead of my actual picture, because for some reason in our town, I need to hire the person that's selling billboards, because I'm amazed at how many people run billboards in this town. But we did the cartoon because it's a little more eye-catching than seeing someone else's head again, which is just the traditional photo. So you can't help but look when you drive by and there's a 10-foot cartoon head staring at you. But then also, to just sidetrack, a quick little thing, we use that same meme, we've turned it into different things. So like when it's your Facebook or it's your birthday on Facebook, we'll throw it on your page, happy birthday, and there's that meme, just so that people are subconsciously tying it right back into us and into the program. So I think I'm sending out probably 7 to 10 birthdays a day, putting that meme on people's page. But back to the marketing, we also run it in the newspaper. We run it in the legal section and the obituaries, only because those are going to be estates. And believe it or not, that's probably where the majority of the calls have come from, are from the estates. Because these are the people that we really are targeting. We knew that going in. And something we haven't done, but we need to do, is get things over to the attorneys, because we deal with a lot of different attorneys in town with estates. So we do need to take information to them so that they can make their customers aware that the program is available.
So can you talk a little bit about the program? So I know we mentioned the name of it, but tell us a little bit about it.
When we come out to your house, we will tell you, if you put it at a certain price, which is market value, exactly how many days. And typically we give you a less than 30-day price, and then we'll give you a less than 90-day price. Or now we also give you the third price, which is we will offer this to you cash close at your convenience. And that is, of course, below market value, but you have no showings, no repairs, cash deal. We close when you want to.
Great. And then are you all the investors? Do you have investors that are backing that? How did you bring that about?
I actually put together a pool of investors.
Great. Great. So as your buyer pool, because we all get those phone calls. If you're doing any marketing online, you get a ton of investors. Some of them are, I just woke up and I saw an infomercial at 2:00 in the morning and I decided I wanted to be an investor. And others are pretty serious. So you take those, you put them together in a pool, you offer this to Mr. or Mrs. Seller. And this third option that you give, if that is something that they want to do, then you turn it over to your investors.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think,
Not,
yeah.
and even though they're in a pool, it's not all of their money pulled together. So we have one investor that has given us a very large amount of money, and he gets first dibs. So if he doesn't want it, then I will move to investor 2, then I will move to investor 3. But so it's not them buying it together as a pool, it's one or the other. And then they actually pay me a commission going in, and even if they decide to keep it, they pay me a commission coming back out. So I'm going to get my commission. So going into the transaction and coming out of the transaction, even if they decide to keep it as a rental property or something.
Sure. And one of the things that I'd like to point out to people, a lot of people, if they're new in the business, they say, well, I don't have an investor. I promise you, just about every single town has an investment club. And you can go as a real estate agent and join that club and meet people and socialize. And here's the reality. I know probably half the people in that investment club in my town. And, it's just a matter of, I can call any of those people up and say, hey, I've got a house and you can buy it for 75 cents on the dollar. Are you interested? And, depending on who they are, they are. So you've got some people who are looking to do the big flips. Flips are much harder to get, but we've also got people who are just looking for a good deal on having rental property, and they'll close very quickly as well. And, all those things make it very easy. So if you're not a person who feels like you can go out and write it, a $50,000, $100,000 check to buy a house, I promise you with, a couple hours of work a week, you can put together an investor pool. It's not just that Cindi and Brian have been doing this forever. And after a while, you're going to do that and get that anyway. But ultimately, if you're scared about this, just do a little bit of research on the local investment club and go spend a couple hours there and say, look, if I got a deal, does anybody want it? And everyone in the room will raise their hand. I promise. So
after the marketing started, I had a lot of investors that I had not even talked to, and even a lot of real estate agents call me wanting in on it. So, if I ended up with a house that none of my investors wanted, I do know that there's several agents that I could call, which brings me to something else. I actually offer a discount commission to other real estate agents. So I have listed several other agents' homes, and I market them just like I do all the others, but I give them a discount rate. Because to me, nothing endorses us more than when an agent from another company lists with me.
So tell us a little bit more about that. So
Brian, I think we both set up on that one.
So just out of curiosity, why didn't I list my house myself?
One, we do more marketing. So again, I'm going to give you all the same services that I do my clients. Also, depending on your E&O insurance, it may be to your benefit to use someone else, but just check into your policy. Some of them will, some of them will not cover your personal investments.
That's an interesting thing, yeah.
And you're still just like a for sale by owner. So if you're showing your own house, people are going to not say things to you that they're going to say to me. So I'm going to give you honest, true feedback from how they're feeling, whereas they may soften it with you and say, oh, well, they didn't like the area. Well, that's not true. They knew the area before they ever walked into that house.
Absolutely.
So, and again, for us, it's just, again, the endorsement of listing with getting to list other agents' houses. So, and again, in our area, our average sale is about 160,000 right now. And I listed one for an agent the other day from another company, my previous company, which was $1 million listing.
That's impressive. So, yeah, I think what you're saying basically is we do better than everybody else, and we do so well that other agents list with us, and that's a pretty good endorsement. And if you're not using that during a listing presentation, then we need to talk about you using that during a listing presentation, because I don't think that there's a bigger endorsement in the world than another agent said, Cindi is so good that I won't even sell my own house. So That is awesome, and congratulations for doing that. And again, I think you're smart to do it at a discount. I mean, the truth of the matter is I'd probably do it at 4% and give 3% to somebody else, simply because just being able to say, this agent who I'm competing against now, I listed their house. Surely you don't want, so that's pretty awesome.
Hey, so Jen Hill has a question. Are you giving the seller a price upfront before the investors are involved, or are you just giving them a range?
No, I give them the cash price. I do give it to them up front. So the investors that we work with, we've worked together long enough that they trust my judgment. I know exactly what % of value they want. So I know that if it's a home that's going to sell for $100,000, exactly where they have to come into it, and roughly what their repairs are going to cost. So I do give them a price up front. Now, I will call the investor on my way to the appointment, say, hey, I'm going out to 123 Main Street to take a look at it. And he may run by and, do a drive-by or something, give me his thoughts on it. But no, for the most part, he's good with whatever we do.
Okay. Well, that's pretty awesome. Well, listen, we've got literally 1 minute left, and I want to thank Brian and Cindi for being with us this morning. And I want to share I'll share my thoughts, and I'll let, Brian and Cindi and Sharif share theirs. A couple of things, 30,000 people in your town. Now, I know that you go out a little bit further as well, but all those people who say, I can't sell a lot of real estate because, I'm in a small town, and that, 1.1 million in GCI last year in a town that their base is 30,000 people. So, there's opportunities in every market. And the thing that I heard, if I have a takeaway today from this, it's that no matter what, you're 100% professional 100% of the time, and making sure that everybody knows that you have an amazing product, and it's so darn good that other real estate agents wanted to use you. And I congratulate you for that. So Brian and Cindi, what's your final thoughts?
Well, I feel like it's taken me a long time to get where I am today. And I wish I'd have found Club Wealth 10 years ago, because I think I could have done it a whole lot quicker had I had the mentors to actually help me along the way. So I'm really excited to see where this goes over the next, few years.
Well, we appreciate the endorsement. Sheree?
Yes, and a couple of things I want to make sure that people did hear is that they did all the things that everyone wasn't willing to do, and they're still doing all the things that everyone wasn't willing to do. So those are some things that I think that when some agents think that they reach a certain level and they don't have to do those things even anymore, and that's not the case with Brian and Cindi. Each time they're elevating themselves, and they're stepping their game up every single time, and they're continuing to do the things that all the other agents are not willing to do. And I applaud you guys for that. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, with that in mind, we have to sign off. Thank you so much again for being our guest. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing all the great things you guys will do in the next year. I'm a little bowed to Michael. Just remember, there is a world-class beast inside of you. Just wait till you get out.
No, Brian, you have to do this part. Come on, Brian.
I did the best I could. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see everybody again next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.